Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Wise Guys. We just watched the greatest kickoff game to the NFL season a day or two ago, and I'm joined by Kyle and Tony to discuss it. How are you two gentlemen?
You can't even remember how long ago it was.
No, I can't.
That's odd.
Hey, I'm working all the time. It wears on my memory.
It was just, I got to give you a break because it was such a good game, and I won so well from it.
You won well.
Yeah, I won well from the game. So good that I forgot what day it is, too. So here we are on this mysterious day doing this podcast after a wonderful Rams win, which I predicted.
Again, I don't quite remember. My memory is foggy, I give you that, but I don't remember it the same way. I don't remember the Rams winning.
Yeah, sometimes what you're having is called, you're suffering from foggy memory after a loss.
Oh, is that what
actually,
it is?
I forget the term for it, but there is a term which says that basically you've lost your mind because you lost badly.
Is that called depression?
It could be. Yeah, could be. This early in the season. Yeah.
And how are you?
Doing great. Happy that me and Tony agreed and we saw a great game and points are in our favor to start off the year.
Absolutely.
Again, my
returning champ here's got to,
Oh yeah, returning champs, they got to,
Yeah, they got to
do what they do.
Well, me and the Rams, obviously.
Yeah.
Wait, did you win?
Yeah, he won.
I mean, I
season?
probably did.
Who lost?
I think you and I tied for last place.
Did we really?
I think you and I tied for last place.
What was the punishment last year?
We were both supposed to do something, and neither one of us did. We'll have to double. It's going to be you and I that lose again this year.
We'll
so
just
we'll have to see what
have
happens.
we bring it down together. I'm ready to go.
We all agree that you don't deserve nice things, so naturally you're going to be the two-time champion, just like Aaron Rodgers.
Two-time. I think I won the last couple of years.
Actually, yeah, I think you did. Usually it comes down to
You've won a few years for sure. You've won more than one time. I agree.
So we'll have to see.
Well, like Aaron Rodgers, he's gotten the champion. He's come away with the title 2 or 3 times, just not the title he wants.
I don't think I need to be compared to Aaron Rodgers.
Well, hey, you're both immunized. But coming back to the NFL season, Week 1 has just kicked off. The rest of it will be kicking off soon. And we have some games to discuss. We haven't done our game-by-game predictions in a while, and it's exciting to be doing it again. So, because you are very proud of your win, a day or so ago on Thursday night, would you like to start off with the Sunday games, Tony?
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't wait to discuss. Right off the top, we've got an NFC South banger of a game. New Orleans visiting Atlanta. Who is favored by -5.5. New Orleans is favored by -5.5 in Atlanta. And this is a really interesting game. They're going to have Marcus Mariota playing quarterback for the Falcons. They've drafted Drake London, who's questionable. They've got Kyle Pitts on offense for Atlanta. Arthur Smith in year 2. See what they can do. New Orleans, on the other hand, is being extremely hyped. They've got Jameis Winston at their quarterback and Dennis Allen, who last time we saw him coaching was with the horrible Raiders, and he was not good. So for some reason, New Orleans, Winston and Dennis Allen are supposed to make the playoffs here in the NFC South. But Atlanta, who is a home team here, is getting 5 points at home. And I know they stink, but I'm a little curious what the avenue is here for New Orleans after they lost their Hall of Fame coach and their Hall of Fame quarterback. What's the deal here for New Orleans? Make the case to me.
So here's my case to you. Can you name 3 players who play offense for the Atlanta Falcons?
I just did.
Okay, that's true. Can you name 3 good players?
Yeah, I just did. We've got Drake London. We don't know what Drake London is. All right, I'll give you that.
He's unproven.
All right, so let's say Kyle Pitts.
All right, I'll give you Kyle Pitts. That's one.
Kyle Pitts.
That's one.
We'll say Cordero Patterson. I also like him, and I also like Marcus Mariota. I like him. I don't love him.
Now, this is not a sarcastic question. I'm asking you to help me out here.
Yeah.
When was the last time he played a meaningful game at quarterback?
Probably 2 years ago. Probably maybe 3.
So the last time, because recall, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I remember him playing quarterback in a meaningful NFL game, he was getting replaced by Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's the last time he played.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was on a team that didn't have outstanding receivers, but you did have solid receivers like Corey Davis at the time. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, I guess so.
And that's the one that's coming off the top of my head. But they had more than one solid wide receiver in Tennessee.
I think they're going to use the way that they're going to use Mariota. I think they're just going to let him manage the game.
Okay.
My pick is more of a lack of a faith in New Orleans than it is anything else. I don't believe in Atlanta
My problem
by any means. I think this could be a scenario where you remember a couple of years ago Jacksonville won their first game of the season against the Indianapolis Colts, and then they proceeded to lose every single game thereafter. This could be one of those scenarios, but I'm picking Atlanta by 3. I'm just doing it. I have a feeling. I think New Orleans got a little too much hype, and Jameis Winston could be anything. It's a ticking time bomb. Could be anything.
He is, and I can't poo-poo all over the prediction, but I have the opposite take in that I have no faith in Atlanta whatsoever. I think they will be lucky to score 17 points. That being said, your concerns about New Orleans are valid. For that reason, I do see this game going to overtime, except I see the Saints scoring the touchdown and not giving now they both get a chance to have the ball, but I see one team getting a touchdown, the other one getting the ball in overtime and not doing anything with it, which is why I'm going to stay with New Orleans at 7, because I think Atlanta is going to be one of those teams, if they're forced to score, they're not going to be able to do it. If there's not really a whole lot of pressure, not a big deal, maybe second quarter, third quarter, something that's not important or pivotal moment of the game, Atlanta will put up a few points here and there when they don't cover Kyle Pitts. But that's more how I see it. I don't think Atlanta's going to be able to perform in crunch time.
Now, that's a valid point. But Kyle, what do you think of New Orleans? What do you make of New Orleans' offseason? Do you think it's a good thing that Michael Thomas is highly questionable? And do you think it's a good thing that they tried to trade for Deshaun Watson and were unsuccessful, and now their starter is still there? Do you think that impacts the team that Sean Payton left?
I mean, obviously, this team is not, in my opinion, one that's gonna go anywhere too far. I think they're just a slightly average to above average team. And that's kind of where I see they're at right now. Obviously, they keep having to shed their payroll. They keep having to, try to maneuver around and see what we can do with who's here and who's not. But honestly, if you're New Orleans, if you have any semblance of a coaching staff, they say, hey, Jameis, on every single play, find out where A.J. Terrell is and don't throw there. And you'll be fine. And they'll win by big.
I think the other big piece of it, and this ties in with your point, Dennis Allen's a bad coach. And I think that...
I feel like I hadn't hammered that home enough, so thank you.
I agree. I just wanted to remind all of our listeners. But here's my thing. As long as he doesn't really do anything offensively, just stays on the defense and admits he doesn't know anything offensively and just sits in a corner, I think they can do a solid 20-point game. I really do. My concern is if Dennis Allen thinks he's a coach again and goes hands-on with the offense is my concern.
Yeah, and my other concern is they lost their offensive coordinator. I forget the guy's first name. Joe Lombardi to the Chargers last year, who was their longtime consigliere to Sean Payton. Lost him, and now the guy calling the plays is relatively new, probably a first-time play caller. On the offensive side for the Saints. And then you've got Dennis Allen trying to get a second shot where last time it was utterly terrible. It wasn't just a little bad, hey, there's room for improvement here. It was terrible. It was absolutely awful. So
here's my counter to that, though. The new offensive coordinator in New Orleans, and this is a genuine question, I'm not sure, is it a Joe Schmo that was just hired, or is it somebody who's been promoted from within the system and knows the system?
No, I think he was promoted from within. Let's see. It's Pete Carmichael. And it looks like, he's been with them for some time.
Well, then here's my thing. He might be a bad play caller in the long run. In the short term, I think his being new and an unpredictable play caller is actually a good thing for the Saints. The comp he reminds me of is Freddie Kitchens. In the long run, let me finish here. In the long run, bad coach, not the guy I want running my offense. In the short term, you may remember, all of us, particularly Kyle, praised what a great job Freddie Kitchens did in the short term as an offensive play caller because they didn't know, teams weren't used to him yet. They couldn't game plan for him yet, and he got a lot of hot looks early, which is why Cleveland made the move to hire him as their head coach.
That's because he took over for Hugh Jackson, the worst coach ever.
No, number one, you're right, but even in light of that, he made rookie Baker Mayfield and a very poor team look like a solid team. You could argue the team was weighed down by Hugh Jackson. I would completely agree with that. But I don't think there's any argument that they were a bad team and that he was able to do something with it. I see Carmichael being similar in his first few games, being a solid play caller, not because he's brilliant in any way, but because teams don't know how to game plan for him yet.
I mean, it's the same thing with brand new quarterbacks. Your first couple games are probably your best opportunity to show off what you can do because nobody knows what you can't do yet.
Yeah.
And once they figure that out, then there's a new adjustment, and that's when it gets hard. So I think it's a similar idea as what you're trying to get at here.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen, you can see it on the screen here. Dennis Allen won. Kyle, can you see it? I don't know if you
I
can
can't
see
see.
it. Guess Dennis Allen's record in, I think it was 5 seasons as coach. I'm sorry, 3 seasons
3?
as coach, yeah,
With
the Raiders.
I can see it. That ain't good.
Is it like 10?
Close.
Close. It was 11-37-0. Dennis Allen was 11-37. All right. I mean, that's my last point here. We probably got to move on. But yeah.
That's Matt Patricia.
I think
bad.
Atlanta wins games this year. I just don't think it's this week.
Okay. I don't think Atlanta wins games, and I think it's this week only. Let's move on. San Francisco. A lot of people teasing San Francisco. They're favored by 7 points in Chicago. I nearly picked Chicago here, too, on the same premise. How do you guys feel about San Francisco's offseason? They get Trey Lance in there. They kind of shun Jimmy Garoppolo, who led them to the semi-conference finals. He's thought to be traded. He gets this surgery, kind of prevents him from being traded. There's interest. They can't do it. Ultimately, everyone thought he was going to get cut, but they bring him back on this team-friendly deal for him to be the best backup or whatever, potentially the highest-paid backup.
Yeah.
Anyway, they bring him back like a week ago. What's your feeling on all this, Andrew?
My feeling on this is going to be a very sloppy, ugly game. I think Jimmy G, I don't know if he plays. In fact, he probably won't. This will be Trey's first game.
Yeah.
His first game, Chicago is not a good team by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that the Niners have the better team on paper, but Trey doesn't know how to use it. If all you do is train me how to ride a tricycle and then say, here's a Ferrari, I might struggle with that a little bit. And I think those are the growing pains that Trey Lance is going to embark on. And I think that the only quarter in which he'll look good in is the fourth quarter. I think he'll have maybe 10 points in the fourth quarter. This is another game I see going to overtime, not for an offensive shootout, but I think it will be similar to that New Orleans-Atlanta game in that it's going to be an ugly defensive game.
Yeah. I think Trey's got some growing pains. I think you hit the nail on the head. I just don't think it's smooth sailing right away. If Trey is good, it's not going to be this week.
The area, here's where I could see, I'm picking San Francisco by 3 in overtime. I can see Chicago winning this purely because Justin Fields wasn't good, but Matt Nagy's gone. And there's that level of, same thing I said with Carmichael, new play caller, no one knows how to game plan for him yet. Even a great defense like Bosa and the 49ers. So it is conceivable that Chicago wins, but I can't pick Chicago to win a football game in the year 2022.
I have the same feeling exactly. Kyle, what'd you think of the Garoppolo deal?
I mean, I think they made the mistake of letting it carry on for too long and letting, I think, what they should have tried to do was get him out of the building before the Watson thing was over. I don't think it was ever going to happen because everybody was waiting for that domino, but him being in the building seems like it's going to be as problematic for Trey Lance as it might as becoming the new guy in this new place, because you always know that, hey, that guy brought him to a Super Bowl. I mean, and
then a conference championship thereafter.
I mean obviously we understand there's limitations there, but that guy's still there, and people are going to talk him up no matter what because he's on the squad now. That being said, I agree with you guys. I can't, as much as Justin Fields may be a great player, unfortunately, I don't know who he's throwing to because even N'Keal Harry's hurt. Like
It's
that's
not. It's not about Fields for me.
Right.
It's just about everything else.
There's nothing left in Chicago that makes me believe in them. And also something that you'll notice as we go through this week for my picks is I think of early season football as either it's really close or it's not at all, because some teams just are better run and they come in more prepared. And for me, it always feels like the games are more spread out at the beginning of the year, and as you get further along, teams kind of can understand what each other are going to do. So I think there's a likelihood we're going to have some big differentials this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you've really gone put your money where your mouth is there. You've got let's see, you've got 142 is your projected total difference this week. Meanwhile, Andrew has 108 and I have 151. So actually, oh wow,
yeah.
okay,
There
I'm
you
right
go.
there with you, I guess.
Yeah, I'm calling a lot of close games this week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, every team. Week 1 is similar to this. Is I heard somebody saying this. I forget who it was, but anyway, I'm not going to give him credit. I'm just going to steal it. Week 1 is similar to the playoffs, where it's like every team really thinks they can win. Every fan that goes to the stadium thinks their team has a real chance at winning, and they have a chance to form their identity for 2022. Every single person in the building really believes that. And that's different than Week 7, where Jacksonville already knows they're out of the playoffs, or so-and-so, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But that doesn't mean you
that's
won't
gonna-
get games like the Iowa-North Dakota State game that was 7-3, and it was 2 field goals and 2 safeties. is
Whoa.
the total scoring in that
That's
game.
crazy.
And that's a Week 1 game. So that could happen, too.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Jeez, man, I got to think about that for a little bit.
There might be
You'll
a
let
few
that
ga-
sink.
I'll tell you what game has the potential to be that weird game in terms of scoring. I think Arizona-Kansas City has the potential to be a very weird scoring game.
Yeah, definitely. You want to go to the next game here? You done with San Francisco?
I'm done with San Francisco.
Okay.
I can't pick Chicago to win a game this year.
Same here. All right, let's go to Cincinnati, who's visiting Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's favored by almost a touchdown here, 6.5 in Pittsburgh.
I love
What is
this
going on with this line right here?
They're predicting Mitch Trubisky to play quarterback. That's what this is. And I don't,
And that prediction is accurate.
that's what they're looking at here. I can't fault the odds makers for looking at, Trubisky's going to play, so we have to favor the other team. And the Bengals just made the Super Bowl. They deserve some level of respect. It's hard for me to call them the Bungles after they do that. Here's my problem. You still have Zach Taylor. And I don't care if you made the Super Bowl or not. You lost that Super Bowl because Zach Taylor was bad.
Yeah.
And we discussed that in detail. And here's my thing. I don't think Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's an outstanding coach by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, he is at least an average coach, which is more than I can say for Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
So I think overall, in terms of the coaching of the teams, I think Pittsburgh will be better prepared. They will be at home. They don't want to disappoint the terrible towel fans. And here's the other piece of it. Yes, the Bengals have improved quite a bit, and I will give them credit. But I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that are on the boat that last year is a fluke. And historically, last year I know they had good record against Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly. But historically, Pittsburgh has owned this team.
Yeah. And Pittsburgh has a lot going for them. I mean, personnel-wise, a couple things changed. Obviously, getting someone in there who's a non-Ben Roethlisberger, 2021 Ben Roethlisberger in there is going to help. And
They might throw passes beyond 5 yards.
yeah, exactly. It's possible. I mean, it's possible. But at least Trubisky brings a little athleticism to the position that they didn't have
A
before.
functional lower body.
Yeah, exactly. That will help them in the event of a terrible offensive line, which they have. But coaching-wise is where it really matters for me. They bring in Brian Flores to coach the linebackers on that defense. I think they're going to have a really good plan against this Cincinnati wide receiving core that everyone keeps raving about. I just want to remind everybody, Joe Burrow, who's a fantastic young quarterback, and I wouldn't take anything away from him, but it's important to note that in those 3 playoff games they had, Burrow was less than fantastic. He wasn't this god among men on the football field. He was taking bad sacks. He threw interceptions. He almost lost to Derek Carr and the Raiders, who made a terrible mistake at the end of Bisaccia just, killed their
Lost his
chances.
job.
Exactly. And they go to that Tennessee game, and Tannehill throws that terrible pick. And, of course, McPherson knocks in the field goal. They go to Kansas City, and Mahomes just loses his mind or whatever happened to him. And Burrow, and then in the Super Bowl, you know, he whatever, they scored 21 points or whatever they scored, and it wasn't fantastic. I just want to say everyone's piling on Burrow like he's this great guy. You know, he's this great quarterback and, you know, led the Cincinnati Bengals. But the truth is Cincinnati won because of their defense and because of their special teams and not because of their coach or their quarterback. And Burrow managed the game. He was good. He didn't turn the ball over that much in the regular season. But I just want to say I think it's important to note, you know, some of these teams are going to come right on Burrow, and Pittsburgh's one of them. So I'm picking Pittsburgh to win this game.
It's hard. Pittsburgh is objectively the better team, and I think for that reason I am going to pick them. But what I can see is both teams looking very good early, especially in the first two quarters. I could see both teams scoring 14 points. I think the second half is where it's really going to be a defensive struggle. I think Pittsburgh has the lead, and I think Cincinnati is in a position to fight back and tie it. I think it's a game that comes down to who has the ball last. Even though it's not really going to be an offensive game, it's going to be you have the ball last with 2 minutes, who wants it more kind of game. And I think Pittsburgh also, if you're Pittsburgh, you're not going to win a shootout. They have Burrow, you have Trubisky. You're not winning a shootout. It has to be a tight game for them to win. Mm-hmm. And I predict Pittsburgh, because they're the better team, they're better coached, I think they will win, and they can only win a close game. So I'm thinking it's a 3-point victory for Pittsburgh.
I think it's possible that by week 9 we're going to be saying that Pittsburgh has the best wide receiver core in the league. I think it's possible.
I don't.
I don't.
They have Deontay Johnson.
Okay,
they have
correct.
Chase Claypool.
Correct.
And they have George Pickens. And they have Pat Freiermuth.
These are people on the roster, correct?
They've had. All right. Well, I'm not trying to be Stephen A. They got Pat Freiermuth and those boys. No, but I'm just saying. It's important to note these guys. I mean, who does Cincinnati? What did they signed a tight end? I forget who it was. It's like
OJ.
No, not OJ Howard. It's not
OJ
Uzama.
Howard?
It's somebody else. But they signed somebody anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Cameron Brate. Maybe.
No, he's still with the Bucks.
I forget who it was.
But
anyway,
now either way,
they signed a tight end, but they have. I mean, who's better? Who's better? Just answer me this: by the end of the year, who's better, Tyler Boyd or George Pickens?
George Pickens.
It has to be George Pickens.
Well, the thing is, that's Pittsburgh's thing: is drafting receivers in the middle rounds that somehow, some way, do very well in the end.
Yep. And somehow, I mean,
Hayden Hurst is
Hayden Hurst. There you go.
The answer you're looking for.
So Hayden Hurst, who
don't forget they also picked up Devin Asiasi,
who couldn't possibly be better than C.J. Uzama, who already wasn't very good. You know, so I mean, I understand you've got Jamar Chase and you've got T. Higgins. I understand that, but I just think Pittsburgh has a consistent 85 overall across the board, probably better than having a 95 and a 91 and a 73 or whatever.
The other thing is, I know they have a better offensive line, the Bengals do, and it has improved.
Yeah, that's true.
My problem is T.J. Watt. Even with an improved offensive line, I see T.J. Watt bullying Joe Burrow throughout the bulk of the day.
I think that's a valid point. All right, we should probably move on. Anything else on this one?
It's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to pick them to win every single game this year.
That's a lie.
But I am going to pick them to win week 1. I think that a lot of their deficiencies got better over the offseason. I am also a believer that they had a lot of things go their way last year. But one thing that we did see throughout the playoff run is Joe Burrow has whatever it is, the clutch gene, he seems to have it, or found a way to, even if he's having a terrible game, throwing interceptions, putting the ball on the ground, getting sacked, if you need him to make the one throw to get you in field goal range, he'll figure out a way to do that. There's not a lot of guys that can do that in the NFL, and there's a difference between a guy like Kirk Cousins and a guy like Joe Burrow. I don't think the stats are very different, but if you look at if you're at the end of the game and you got 28 seconds left and you know you only have 1 or 2 throws left, you want Joe Burrow, and it's just already there. That's there, and that makes me feel like they have a shot. And if they have a decent team, and like you said, if this is a shootout, I don't see any way where Pittsburgh wins. That being said, I have it as a close game too. I think it's a McPherson buzzer beater anyway. But I have Cincy winning.
I mean, it could be a McPherson buzzer beater like the ones he kicked in Green Bay that he celebrated, except didn't go through the goalposts. Could be one of those.
Maybe.
Could be.
The next game, unfortunately, I do not think is a game that will. Or am I misreading? No, we got one more.
Philly.
Yeah, Philly. I misread that. I thought I was referring to the game after that.
Yeah.
This game. Why is the NFL putting this game on television?
Philly and Detroit?
Yeah. Why is it on television?
Wow.
Well, Tony thinks Philly's going to win the NFC East.
I do think Philly's going to win the NFC East.
Okay, it's not a ridiculous prediction. Somebody has to be the least smelly trash.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fault Tony all that much, but number one, nobody likes the Eagles. Number two, the Lions are the Lions. Why are we putting either of these teams on television?
Well, listen, there's a lot of hype for Philly, and I'm almost scared to be on the hype train here with Philly. But I'm jumping on it. Philly by 21 here in Detroit, because I looked up the schedule last year and I was like, I know these two teams faced up, but I just couldn't remember what happened. Philadelphia won 44-6 in Detroit.
Is that week one?
No, it was like week 9 or something. It was in the middle of the season, right when Philly was turning it around.
And Detroit was turning it around, in all fairness.
Yeah, and Detroit was getting a little better at that point. I think Detroit was 0-8 before that game, and everybody picked them to win it. I was like, oh, is this sleeper pick? I remember. Anyway, bottom line, Philly trades for A.J. Brown. They kind of doubled down on Jalen Hurts thing, but at the same time, if Hurts doesn't perform this year, they have the ability, the draft capital to move up and get a different guy next year. They added cornerback Gardner Johnson, traded for from the Saints. They've got a couple of guys they've added. I don't know. I think their offensive line is extremely good. They're going to run the ball.
Why did the Saints get rid of Gardner Johnson? Was it just a salary?
It's just a contract thing. Yeah, I think they weren't going to extend him. They couldn't pay him. They don't have the money because they moved it all around to get Deshaun Watson. Anyway, another story.
Okay, we'll get to that later. There was a genuine question I didn't know. My apologies.
No,
you continue.
Good question. So, I don't know. I'm with the Philly hype train. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I do think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to control it. I think their defense is going to be a little better. I think it was a little overrated last year, but I think it's going to be legitimately better this year. And Detroit, I just don't think is there yet. I don't think they're ready. So,
I agree 100% with Tony, and this is my why are you doing this pick of the week. It's Detroit by 5.
Why is it by 5? I'm just
it's Detroit by 5.
So
just text me when I'm right.
One of you can do. I don't know what the thing I put in the sheet, but one of you can put in Philadelphia by 17 for me.
Okay.
And the reason is this: 10 points is still a respectable game. I see it as one of those games with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Philly's up by 10. Detroit's driving. Detroit's making it competitive, putting Philly on their heels. And then Jared Goff reminds us he's Jared Goff and throws a pick 6 to go the other way. And then both teams kind of stop trying.
I think it's important to remember that Detroit has no wide receivers. So if they get behind in a game, they're going to be relying on their run game consistently.
They got Hawkinson.
Yeah, they have Hawkinson and they have St. Brown. They have
that's right.
What's his first? Not
Amon-Ra
St. Brown. Anyway, it's important to remember that when Detroit gets behind, they're not coming back.
Don't they have Jameson Williams near the end of the year?
Yeah, they will later on this year. I'm sure they'll redshirt him. They really shouldn't bring him back. I hope they don't.
I don't think this is necessarily true for this game, but I think Philly is going to be a litmus test for a lot of NFL defenses this year. Because if you're able to slow down Jalen Hurts, I think, which isn't such a hard task, but if you're able to do that, I think that means you're a good football team because you can stop him when you have seen time and time again. This is how you stop him. Mm-hmm. So just do it.
Yeah, there's a blueprint on Hurts for sure.
Yeah.
Do I think Detroit can do it? No.
No, that's not why I'm picking them to win this game. But I think that's something that may be a conversation in the future.
Good point. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Miami.
I don't like this game.
Miami's home, favored by 3.5. New England is visiting.
Are the Patriots scared?
Yes.
Is that why they went down to Miami on Tuesday?
Oh, did they go early?
Yeah, they go like 5 days early.
Oh, is it hot down there this weekend? Yeah. We better check.
It is. That's why they went down early, reportedly.
Yep, no, and I think if you're Belichick, I understand the reasoning for this, but you have a history of playing poorly down there, and that's not just Mac Jones. Cam Newton played badly. Tom Brady played badly. The Patriots do not play well in Miami. For whatever reason, they always play horribly.
89 and rainy is the forecast on Sunday.
Actually, rainy is good for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Here's my problem. Who was the play caller last year for the Patriots?
Please don't talk about Matt Patricia. I don't even want to remember his name.
Well, don't worry.
Please.
He's only 50% responsible for the play calling. The other 50% is the guy associated with 50% of the responsibility sharing with Matt Patricia is a guy who, when he was the head coach last year, called a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9.
I don't want to hear his name either. Don't say his name.
Well,
don't even say
they
it.
work together to share the offensive play calling responsibilities for the Patriots, which scares me to death. And here's my prediction for the Patriots this year. They will have a top 3 defense in the NFL at the end of the year. They will also have a bottom 3 offense at the end of the year. I have zero faith in this offense. Mac Jones will show flashes of brilliance, but he will be held back by 2 morons as play callers, and I think we should just reincarnate the 3 Stooges because they would do a better job running this offense than these 2 idiots.
The 2 Stooges?
I would rather. Go get me the 2 Stooges.
The 2 idiots. It's maybe better.
Wise guys.
The 2 wise guys.
But everything about Patricia and Joe Judge running the Patriots offense scares me to death. If it is rainy, that does favor them. I mean, we saw it last year when it was a crazy weather game. It went well for the Patriots. Hand off every single play. Don't make it complicated on the quarterback. And in this case, your play callers, where Mac Jones is the smartest one. And he's in his 2nd year, doesn't know anything, and he's still smarter than these 2.
I find it fascinating that Patricia and Judge are going to try and figure out McVay's offense when neither of them have experience with McVay's offense. That's the thing that bugs me the most. And, I mean, obviously it's Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, so that part bothers me too. Yes. But if the Patriots are going to have any success on offense this season, it's not going to be immediately. It's going to be after week 8, week 9. Maybe they start to figure things out. Maybe. But at the end of the day, if they win more than 6 games, I'll be happy. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
No, I don't see them being a playoff team as long as these 2 are calling offensive plays for Mac Jones. I think that they have a chance if it's a rainy game, because here's my thing. If it's a downpour rainy game, then you're relying on your running backs. Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, that's a good combo to have. It really is. And who's Miami's number 1 running back? Chase Edmonds?
Raheem Mostert.
Raheem Mostert.
And
Okay.
Chase Edmonds.
Oh, and Chase Edmonds, okay. Not horrible, but I actually like the Patriots running backs better in that scenario.
I do too.
So I do think they have a chance. I think to discount them is a little premature.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this of you have Tyreek Hill. They're going to have gadget plays and get him involved. You know, Patriots always play badly down there, as I've said, anyway. You're going to have Waddle involved, even if it's on wildcat plays, end arounds, trick passes, whatever it may be. Plus, Tua, he may not be able to throw a football. He can run. So I think it's just going to be a little too much for the Patriots to handle. If it's rainy, I at least seeing it being competitive. I think score-wise, it'll be relatively close no matter what. But I think if it's perfect conditions and hot, we're going to look at that and go, okay, the score said it was close, but that was not close. Patriots, you stunk. If it's downpouring raining, I'm going to go, you know what? That was at least competitive, Patriots. You lost, but you put up a fight this time in Miami. I think that's going to be my takeaways from this game.
I'll be happy if it's a 1-possession game. But by the way, while we're on the topic here, Miami outlook, any thoughts? Are you guys the crazy people who think Miami's making the playoffs?
No, Miami's
I do.
You are?
Miami's giving me Cincy vibes, to be honest.
Really?
I'm just about.
You think they're going to the Super Bowl?
No, not quite that far, but I'm thinking they might be my team again this year.
Okay.
But I'm still figuring it out. We got to see Tua play.
I was about to say, Cincinnati has someone who can throw a football.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of an overreaction to Tua's capabilities.
He fired his cameraman for putting a video of him throwing a duck to Tyreek.
Yeah, but it's Tyreek Hill. Just chuck it down there. We've said it
Tua
for years.
cook.
I don't know about
Let Tua cook.
I prefer not to have food poisoning.
Would you? Okay, but here's the question: would you rather have Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, and Nelson Aguilar, or would you rather have Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle?
I'd rather have Mac Jones.
Yeah, I would.
The quarterback is way more important than the receivers.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
If you have the best deep threat ever, but you have a quarterback that can't throw deep, what's the point?
I think you'll be surprised at how well Tua does this year.
Let's soundbite that. Make sure we make note of the time there.
Take care of it. I'll say it again. I think you will be surprised at how good Tua is this year.
Okay.
All right, it's noted.
Hey, by the way, I just want to say I don't think Miami's totally out of the picture for the playoffs here, but I think the AFC is very crowded. If Miami makes the playoffs, it's gonna be despite Tua. It's gonna be because they managed him appropriately. It's gonna be because their run game is good and they figured out how to get the ball on short dump offs to Hill and Waddle and Jasicki or whatever.
This team has the potential to be last year's Raiders, the team that gets in and going, oh wow, we're proud of you. You kind of did a thing. I'm a little I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of impressed, and then they get eliminated in their first playoff game.
If Brian Flores was the coach, I would be a lot higher on this team.
I agree, but they're stupid, and that's a story for another day.
Well,
what? We didn't even talk about
adds to the Raiders comp.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. We didn't even talk about the Tom Brady and the tampering and all that. I guess that's next week.
It's a story for another day.
All right.
What's the next game on the? Oh no.
Not a lot of
The
time on
Flacco
this
Revenge Bowl.
Flacco Revenge. Baltimore.
Wasn't the last game he played against Baltimore too?
No, I don't know. I don't think he's played them.
He hasn't.
Yeah, he hasn't played Baltimore.
Baltimore's going to New York. They're favored by 7.5 here. Flacco's going to start. Saleh tried to juke everybody out, thinking that Zach Wilson's going to come back into week 1. Don't think so.
Actually, week 4.
Yeah, actually week 4. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, Baltimore. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I have good expectations for Baltimore this season. I think they'll make the playoffs
Until everybody gets hurt, they're in a good spot.
Yeah,
The other
exactly.
thing is Baltimore historically starts the season very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what Baltimore does, and they're against the Jets. And I'm sorry, Haley, but the Jets are not winning this week and probably not very much this season. Again. But Baltimore is going to start the season hot with probably, I don't know how many points I have in the sheet, but put it up to 24.
You have it at 14, so
it could go to 24.
Okay.
It's the Jets.
Now you're in the ballpark of us. I've got them at 22. Tony's got them at 21. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's any expectations of the Jets other than going 6-11?
I think they can win 7 or 8 games. And here's my reason. They have so much talent. They really do. They had a great draft. They got a lot of new players in there. And let's be honest, you play take Buffalo out of the equation, you have a weakened New England, a very questionable Miami that you get to play each twice. And the other thing with Buffalo, and we'll get to them later, that team, everyone's hyping them, oh, they're the Super Bowl picks, oh, Buffalo's so wonderful. And they're not a horrible team, so I'm not going to say they're bad, but they are entirely one-dimensional. It reminds me of Peyton Manning's Colts. The minute Peyton Manning goes down, for whatever reason, this team is done. Buffalo Bills the exact same way. If Josh Allen so much as rolls an ankle and is out for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, they might not make the playoffs because they will lose every single game that Allen does not play for them. Yes, Case Keenum is a suitable backup, and it's not to poo-poo all over Case Keenum, but everything goes through Josh Allen's powerful arm, his ability to run, his ability to make plays, and Keenum is your solid, stereotypical NFL quarterback. Not horrible, but he's also not going to wow you. And I think Buffalo relies on Allen far too much in order for Keenum to save the day.
And we saw in Thursday's game when Buffalo struggled offensively because of, their new coordinator. They have an unproven coordinator. So, how do you bet on someone like that? And Josh Allen, who's very good, just couldn't overcome. Matthew Stafford was obviously lights out, throwing the ball. No concerns with the elbow at all.
But that pick was...
That pick... I don't remember, but it was LA won regardless. So
on to better games.
Better games. Oh, yeah, speaking of better games,
we have Washington playing the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Who's the starting quarterback for the Commanders?
Oh yes, the Commanders.
But this is the first game in Commanders history.
And Carson Wentz gets to fight the clowns again.
Oh, God.
Of Jacksonville.
The ghost of last year's past. Carson, wait a minute. So there's a lot of stuff to break down here, right? There's a lot going on. First of all, Washington is at home. They're favored by 2.5. If anyone's there...
Well, they're favored by as many points as they have fans.
Exactly. If anyone's there at the game... They're going to be booing Washington because the tickets were so cheap. They're like, screw it. I'll go in and I'll boo that team because why not? Because because everything that's happened with Washington this offseason, I mean, it's just an atrocity there in Washington. It's terrible. First of all, they give up, was it 2 first-round picks? I mean, 2 second-round picks for Carson Wentz before Baker Mayfield goes for a 4th or a 5th-round pick by himself. Matt Ryan goes for a 3rd or a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy. They had – and Jimmy, who's just, there, whatever. I mean, he might have been cut, or they could have made a trade offer. Anyway.
They could have gotten Gardner Minshew for a 6th-rounder.
Gardner Minshew was available, so people were available. So the Commanders go and they go big and they give it all up for Wentz and now they're just going to be sitting at home and all their fans are going to be booing them. I just couldn't pick against them more. I just love picking against them. And I mean, we haven't even talked about Jacksonville, but I think there's something there.
It's weird because Jacksonville, very rarely do you have a team that is back-to-back number 1 overall picked horrible. I think the last time that was done was Cleveland, but that's very rarely accomplished. So Jacksonville is bottom of the barrel horrible.
There's nowhere to go but up.
That's the thing, is there's a level of you got to be better, but how much better? The biggest thing Jacksonville did, I don't even remember very many of their offseason moves, but I remember 2 of them. One of them was Christian Kirk. So that was nice and with a very hefty price tag. But, that's the joke move they made. They made one very serious move, and that was getting rid of Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And that was the phenomenal thing that they did. And the thing is, I'm looking at these teams on paper. On paper, Washington is better. On paper, Washington has more talent, especially defensively. Here's my thing, and it reminds me a little bit of the Patriots-Colts game last year with Carson Wentz. The game plan for the Patriots was make Carson Wentz throw, and when he does throw, he'll mess it up, so capitalize on it. Indy's plan was Carson Wentz is horrible, so don't ever let him throw the ball. And even with that game plan, he still almost threw the game away. I think it'll be something similar where, and I have Antonio Gibson as a running back in one of my leagues, so I hope the game plan is feed Gibson every play. That being said, I think that will be the game plan, but you can't do it all the time. You can't pull a Belichick and throw 3 times a game. You'll have to do more than that, and I think that's what scares me for the Commanders, but also where is Jacksonville going to put up points on offense?
I think Trevor's going to be better, and I think Christian Kirk, all right, granted, he's not a number 1. He's going to get a lot of volume. I actually drafted Christian Kirk in a couple of leagues because I think there's 2 things. The first thing is, who else is he going to throw to? And the second thing is, if you think Trevor Lawrence is what we think Trevor Lawrence is, then there should be a really sizable ascension this season. And it has to be this season because it's very rarely the 3rd season. It's extremely rare. What happened to Josh Allen is extremely rare. The first year is usually a little rough. The second year is when guys really come into their own. So for Lawrence, getting out from under Urban Meyer, getting into a competent system, a competent coach, I think Doug Peterson is going to give him easy throws. I think that's the key to Trevor Lawrence because Lawrence can make ridiculous throws all day long, but it's not going to help him if he can't make the easy ones. So Peterson's going to help with that. And I think if we're expecting Trevor Lawrence to be this guy that we thought he was going to be, then now is the time. And I think that's why I'm picking them by 14 here. I also just hate Washington. So I think Washington's going to be my anti-Cincinnati from Kyle's last year. I'm just going to pick against them every game.
I can't fault you too much for that logic, and I think the part that hits me is when I'm looking at the coaching, they're bad teams on both sides. But if I'm looking at this on paper, Washington's a little better on paper. They are at home, which I give you means nothing. Yep. But they are at home, and I think Ron Rivera is just a better coach than Doug Peterson.
Can't disagree with that.
So I think for that logic, I have to go with I got to go with Washington, but I do see it being a close, gross game, and I can even see it being a game where, in the end, we look at that and go, "Wow, what an improved team Jacksonville is." They just couldn't get it done, but they got promised.
Couldn't get it done against the almighty Commanders.
Hey, Ron Rivera might come up with something. You never know.
Maybe he will.
I'll hang my hat on defending Rob Rivera.
Okay. We got a really good one next, and I feel like Kyle should.
Well, I have to give my
go ahead.
Jacksonville.
Sorry.
I'll say don't cut him off.
Jacksonville did good things in this offseason. Besides, the Christian Kirk thing, it was a good thing. just not the numbers that they attach to it. Obviously, their draft was, Trayvon Walker might be the least respected for number 1 pick since, I don't know, like Eric Fisher or something like that.
Yeah.
Nobody's even talking about him being a number 1 pick. And maybe that's because nobody really saw that coming. But for some reason, they picked him there. And there's a reason that he's number 1, and he's probably going to have a decent impact. And then they went off and piggybacked that with Devin Lloyd and a third-round center, which are both guys who are going to be starters. And they'll actually get to use Travis Etienne this year.
Just on third down, though.
Well, that's what Urban said. So you never know. That being said,
Peterson have to follow Urban's edict? Does Peterson?
No.
Is Urban Peter's boss? Peterson's boss?
All that being said, they are starting Evan Ingram at tight end, so it's going to be a close game when you're playing the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram's in the league. Oh, Jacksonville, it makes sense.
It's a Pro Bowl.
They also have Zay Jones.
Evan Ingram's a Pro Bowler. Yeah.
I'm going Jacksonville by 28.
Their wide receiver core is Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones Jr., and Zay Jones.
Marvin Jones was decent last year, wasn't he?
He was not terrible.
Okay. He was okay. Trevor's...
And they traded for Brandon Sheriff. I forgot about that.
Okay. All right.
The Brandon Sheriff revenge game.
Yeah. Brandon Sheriff revenge game. Nobody's talking about that. Don't left guard for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Don't the Jaguars have a guy that used to play for the Commanders now?
Yeah, Sheriff.
No, I meant the other way around. The Commanders have someone who used to play for Andrew Norwell, I think it was.
Did he sign with Washington? I didn't know that.
I think he did.
Give me a moment on that.
Interesting.
But I have Jacksonville by 1. Maybe you guys should launch.
Battle of the Guards. Nobody's talking about this.
It's a big revenge game here.
Jeez.
Week 1 O-line revenge game.
Kyle, this next game is going to be something you want to talk about.
Here. Oh, that's the Kyle game.
You've got a lot to say.
Carolina at Cleveland. Oh, sorry, Cleveland at Carolina.
Cleveland at Carolina. Carolina's favored by 2. Carolina, by the way, is another team. It's getting a little bit of hype. I'm a little bit into it.
I agree with the hype for a game.
No, I think the season long. I think nobody's looking at the NFC. All right, think about it. We got to get to 7 teams in the NFC. We just have to.
Yeah.
That's no debate. I'm predicting that 7 NFC teams will make the playoffs.
I completely agree.
All right. So I'm glad we agree on that.
So now 8 of them will get in.
Something weird will happen. I mean, okay, so Rams, right?
Yeah.
You can say Rams, someone from the north, whether it's Green Bay or Minnesota.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay.
I can see both those teams getting in.
Okay, let's give it both.
But I'll give you Tampa.
Tampa. Okay, then someone from the east. It can't be 2 from the east.
Yeah, but it better not be. It's probably Philly.
It's probably Philly, so that's 6. So now it depends on how you feel about Dallas. It depends on how you feel about New Orleans, maybe. But I don't like either. I don't like Dallas. I don't like New Orleans. I like Carolina. I think they're the 7th team.
Sadly, I think it's Dallas.
Interesting.
I do think it's Dallas, and I think it's more because the weird
or
thing,
Arizona. I guess you could say Arizona.
I can see Kyler Murray has to stay alive and keep playing decent football, which I
wouldn't say Arizona, but I guess you could say Arizona.
Well, the thing with Arizona, you need both of those things to go right. You need Murray to stay alive and for him to keep playing good football. I think one of those things will go wrong. I'm not sure which one, but one of them will go wrong.
I agree.
I think Dallas gets in for 2 reasons. Number one, as much as we laugh at the Cowboys, and they deserve to be laughed at, the thing Dallas does very well is they bring in talent. And they do have a lot of talent on that roster. And the other thing is they play in a horrible division. So I'm not saying you'll win the division necessarily, but you'll accumulate a lot of garbage wins. And that'll help you get in.
I think the 7th seed for me is between Carolina and the Giants.
Oh, then again,
Spoke my piece. Drop the mic.
So, Kyle, tell us about this game.
Kyle, tell us about the Cleveland Browns going against Baker Mayfield.
So, we have a Jacoby Brissett game.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
You know, it might have slipped my mind here that we're having underdog Baker here, because that's a big factor.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Baker's out for revenge. There's a decent argument that Cleveland gave up on him too early for no reason when he played through an injury. And I think that there's a spot there for him to really go off. I don't know why, but my fingers just typed out Cleveland. I think that there's one problem. Now, there's there's multiple problems in Carolina, and it starts with the head coach and the owner and the upper parts of the team, and it trickles down.
The most important parts of the team.
The most important parts of the team, and it trickles down to the whole team, because I still don't think their defense can stop anybody. I still think that their offense has pieces, but that's about it. If McCaffrey makes it through the game, then we'll be surprised. I think that's part of the issue here.
Yeah.
So that just makes me feel like Cleveland still has a decent defense. They still have running backs that can play and play well. And that might be enough for Jacoby Brissett to play well. And I just don't – I'm not seeing the Carolina in the playoffs thing. I would believe it more if you said – I mean, I think Carolina's in the same boat as even in Atlanta. The players are in different places, but I think it's kind of the same amount of guys who are actually NFL players. And a worse coach.
I don't think he's worse than Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith,
I think they're
really not my favorite.
I agree with not your favorite. I do agree that they're in the same tier. Here's my problem.
I'd rather have Smith than Rule
all
day.
I do think both of those two teams will be two of the worst teams in the league. But I also think that they might, both of them are in that tier. Maybe you win 5 games, go 5-12, something like that. But I think if Baker Mayfield shows up for one game and there's one game where he goes nuts and does the best he can, it's this game. He's going to go insane against Cleveland.
Well, don't forget what happened last year. Carolina started 3-0 with Sam Darnold, and people were talking about Sam, Savior Sam, saying, "Hey, Savior Sam, he's 3-0. Panthers look good," and then all of a sudden everything fell off the rails. But this could be a similar scenario. I think Cleveland's a bad team with Jacoby Brissett. That's a bad team.
The problem that I look at for Carolina, actually, I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit. I'm an engineer for my profession. Part of what I do as an engineer is I analyze different materials. And sometimes when different materials get exposed to elements, they change a little bit. Let me ask you something, Tony. What happens if I have a piece of cardboard and I stick it in water for a few minutes? What happens to the cardboard?
It gets all moist and yucky.
Is it very strong?
No, it's not usable anymore.
It's not usable. Why not? What happens if you try to do anything with wet cardboard?
Sees ghosts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my problem is that's Carolina's offensive line. It's wet cardboard. It can't stop anything, and you have to go against Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Okay.
So,
hey, Icky, have fun.
Icky, the brand new rookie. He's the best offensive tackle in the draft.
Well, Icky goes well with my wet cardboard comparison.
Here's the true question. How is Robbie Anderson still on the team after what he said?
We are running out of time here.
We're doing okay, but my problem is it's going to be an ugly game. I see a game-winning drive from Baker Mayfield. He'll look solid, and by solid I mean 2 touchdowns, 300 yards.
Yeah.
Not spectacular, but he'll look solid. And then he might not play this. He'll play a few more games.
I mean, I don't think Baker is going to be bad this year. I just think that because as long as he doesn't play through a shoulder injury, which he might, but as long as he doesn't have that happen to him again, he's got decent weapons. If McCaffrey's healthy, their offense is going to be good. At least have highlight plays. So I don't think he's necessarily the problem. I still think the defense is extremely suspect, and the coaching's obviously terrible. And even Baker at his best is, maybe I don't know, top 12, but that doesn't mean a lot when you're working with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, he's a B-tier quarterback at his best.
Right. And I think that's tough to overcome, a Cleveland team has Myles Garrett, that's got this defensive unit that's, pretty well built. And obviously the run game's going to be effective as long as Kareem Hunt's still playing. And Nick Chubb is still playing. So I think the battle of the lines is going to go to Cleveland. Whether or not Baker goes off or not, I think he's going to play well and he's going to look good. And I think he might look good for a couple weeks too, if not the whole year, because he's healthy. And he wasn't a bad quarterback when he was healthy, even in Cleveland.
He could have he could look like Mac Jones, where at the end of the year you have a lot of questions about the team, but you feel pretty good about him. And honestly, I hope it works out for him, because when you hear Baker Mayfield's story, it makes me feel bad for the guy. in a weird way. There's parts of Baker Mayfield that rub me that I don't like, that maybe rub me the wrong way. But in terms of his story,
that's who he is. But
it is. Rubs me the wrong way, but his story, I feel sympathy for the guy and want him to do well.
So I just want to tell you, I'll leave you with this. The touchdowns, the passing touchdowns for Carolina. Just give me a guess.
Of last year? 11.
Ooh, Cam started a bunch of games, didn't
Yeah.
he?
Well, yeah,
Passing touchdowns.
That's why I didn't go above 11.
6.
That's ridiculous. It was 14, and that's still very bad.
At least I was close.
You guys are over guessing. All right,
I mean, it's Cam Newton, okay?
I'm not even gonna tell you a guess. I'm just gonna tell you their interceptions. 21 interceptions. 14 touchdowns to 21 interceptions.
Well, Cam Newton,
answer me this, Andrew.
Okay.
Is Baker Mayfield better than 14 touchdowns to 21 interceptions?
Yes.
He should be.
Okay, my point exactly. So there you go.
What
That's
did
all
he
I
have
got.
last
Hey,
year? Probably
Carolina's
like 16
defense.
and 10 or something.
Carolina's defense was decent when Darnold was playing well. So if they can just have some stability in that,
They played
maybe
some bad teams,
McCaffrey's
though.
healthy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be a good
bad
team.
this week.
I'm just saying they're going to be an okay team. That's all.
I'll say
Anyway,
they're not going to be.
Cleveland has given me Denver from last year vibes for the first 11 weeks.
Oh yeah,
You got a lot of good players, but nothing's going to bring them together.
I think there's going to be a lot of distractions.
Nothing to bring a team together like a quality human like Deshaun Watson.
All right, Indianapolis. Let's not spend a lot of time on this one. Indianapolis is favored by 7.5, going to Houston.
Okay, they're against Houston. I'm picking Indy. Simple.
I think Houston. I mean, there's a case to be made for them to be decent, like 8 and 9, 9 and 8 type.
I'm going more 7 and 10, but yeah, in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think Davis Mills could be okay. A lot of people picking Brandon Cooks, and
I mean, he's got with a guy whose neck is the same size as Peyton Manning's forehead. You got a lot of potential.
Sure. I mean, he's got the Glennon neck. Kyle, what's your take on the Glennon neck?
I think they have a perfect opportunity here because they don't have anything. They don't have anybody in the waiting in the wings, and they're just saying, "Hey, let's really see if Davis Mills can actually play NFL football here and make a step forward." Because they're just kind of going through and continuing their slow rebuild. I'm not going to necessarily say that Nick Casario deserves GM of the Year votes quite yet again, but when your backup running back is Rex Burkhead, there's a way to go.
Oh yeah, it's Dameon Pierce, 30 carries a game.
Right,
Let's do it.
So
Lovie Smith, run the ball.
Yeah, it's just they're working on it, but there's a ways to go still.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what a guy like Stingley can do, and I'm excited to see their new crew like Dameon Pierce, like you mentioned. But there's just too much to overcome. Indy is actually this is the year Indy. I mean, we said it last year. Indy could be really good this year, and we've said it the last 10 years or whatever. Indy could be really good this year, but this year they might actually be good again.
Hey, they got the best Band-Aid they've had in a while. It's
a pretty good Band-Aid, and even if it's a 34-year-old one who's maybe come on the wrong side of his career, it's better than what you had last year. It's better than what you had 2 years ago. So
it's the best option for their team, also.
And it fits, yeah.
It's better than Baker. It's obviously better than Watson.
Right.
No, it's true. I mean, your season ended on a heartbreaking choke collapse against one of the most garbage teams in the league. So what way to repair a colossal, horrible choke than bringing in Matt Ryan?
I'm moving on. Speaking of the AFC South, Tennessee's home, favored by 5.5 for some reason over the great New York Giants, who I'm picking to win. What are your guys' thoughts on this game?
I would like to know why you're picking the
New York Giants
to win a football game.
I would agree with Kyle.
I'm ready to go. All right. Tennessee, I just don't believe that they are going to be the same team. Derrick Henry, can he continue to carry the load?
They were number one seed.
They were the number one seed. They were an excellent team last year. But is that sustainable? I don't think so. They lost their best playmaker on the team. They lost A.J. Brown.
Do the Giants know that, though?
The Giants, listen, I'm going to make the case for the Giants right now, and the bottom line is coaching. Mike Vrabel is an excellent coach, but you're going up against Brian Daboll in his first game as a head coach, and you've got Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator. Bet you guys didn't know. Wink Martindale has left the Baltimore Ravens to become the defensive coordinator of the Giants. He's going to do some wacky stuff. He is not going to allow Ryan Tannehill to throw on him, that's for sure. And he's not going to allow Derrick Henry. He's going to contain the run. That's what Martindale does.
I don't think there's a way, even if they scheme it perfectly, I don't think there's a player on the Giants who can slow him down.
I think there is, because Derrick Henry's no longer 22. He is. He's 3-4 seasons into this thing. All right, he didn't come onto the scene as a rookie, right?
Here's my problem.
No, he had to sit behind DeMarco.
He sat behind DeMarco Murray for a couple of years, so he didn't come right out into it. Anyway, whatever. He's like 27 now or something like that.
28.
He's got some mileage on him. I think this New York Giant defense has a chance. I don't believe in Daniel Jones, but I also don't believe in the defense of the Tennessee Titans. I think there's a chance that New York wins this game, and that's why I have them by 3.
So let me ask you this. Can you name 2 players in the Giants secondary? Let's make it easier. Can you name 1 player in the Giants secondary?
I know they're not good, but it doesn't matter. Tennessee.
It does
Who is
matter.
Tennessee going to throw the ball to? Name 1 player in Tennessee that they're going to throw the ball to.
Treylon Burks.
You can't throw the ball to him.
Why?
By all accounts, he hasn't had a good preseason.
Huh?
Treylon Burks.
Okay, Deshaun Watson didn't have a good preseason when he started in the league either.
Yeah, but Deshaun.
Jamar Chase did not have a good preseason.
Okay.
Bobby Trees.
Robert Woods, yeah. I agree. I have him on several of my fantasy.
But here's my thing.
Nick Westbrook.
Okay. I think if you're the Giants going in, your game plan is stop Derrick Henry and stop Derrick Henry at all costs.
Yeah.
You're going to leave the wide receivers open. You can't do both. Now here's my thing, right? The Bengals beat the Titans because you had a good D-line that could stop a very injured, withered down Derrick Henry, and your secondary was not excellent, but solid other than Eli Apple. It was solid enough to get Tannehill to force mistakes. The Giants do not have that luxury of having a middle-of-the-road defense.
I think they do have a solid defensive line. I think you'll be confused.
Okay, how about the secondary?
I think you'll be not confused. I think you'll be surprised.
Tell me about the secondary, because again, the game plan is going to be won by Tannehill throwing. Can they stop Tannehill throwing? Can you name 1 player in the secondary?
I don't know that they can stop Tannehill throwing.
Then they can't win the
game.
game.
I don't know that
Adoree
they
Jackson,
need to stop
the Adoree
Tannehill.
Jackson revenge game.
Oh wow, that's an interesting point. Adoree Jackson revenge game, yeah. He's pissed. Watch out. They got the Giants. I gotta go soon. We gotta.
Yeah, we'll wrap through these games. But either way, we're going Titans here.
I'm going Giants. All right. Green Bay is favored in Minnesota by 1.5. Minnesota's getting a lot of hype here, Andrew.
As they should.
All right. Give me the case.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers has no one to throw to other than Randall Cobb. You're in Minnesota. Minnesota has been the best thing they could have. I mean, for the past few years, they've been just on the cusp of the playoffs. Sometimes they just make it in. Sometimes they're just out. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing holding the Vikings back was their horrible head coach. And it's not even that he was a horrible head coach. He was just past his prime.
He just wore out his welcome.
He did. He's gone. You got new blood in the building, and I'll add very smart blood in the building going in for the Vikings. And Aaron Rodgers has no one to throw to whatsoever in Minnesota, which usually at least 1 game a year give him a very hard time defensively.
Yeah.
So I think that right here, he's still getting used to his number 1 guy being Alan Lazard. His receivers are still getting used to being yelled at and chewed at every time they drop Aaron Rodgers' pass or don't run it exactly the way he wants it. He's lost some offensive line help. I think Green Bay, we'll get to Tampa later, but I think the 2 old man MVP quarterbacks, they're going to struggle early, Rodgers and Brady, and I think this is a classic example. I'm picking both of them to lose this week.
I am too. I think it's Minnesota all day. I think their offense is going to be much improved. And the thing that they didn't have last year is a focus on offense, is a coach that was invested in scoring points. Mike Zimmer was more interested in preventing points than he was scoring them. So
and he did for his own offense.
Yeah, and that's just an age-old mentality. It's now changed, and the new school's in the building. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, what's going on? Kirk Cousins, top 10 quarterback. Kyle?
I'm going to reserve judgment on Minnesota until I see them beat Green Bay.
Okay.
Because they have to.
Yeah,
Once they do it, I'll believe a little more.
Okay.
I think Green Bay is going to have a bit of a shift back to the run game because they have those guys. Dillon is coming up. He's going to be more of a powerhouse this year. And I think that the receiving thing is obviously a problem. Defense is obviously not as great as it's been in the past. But until Aaron Rodgers is dead, and especially in a divisional game, you can't count him out. And that's the truth of it, no matter who he's thrown to. Obviously, if it's Devontae Adams, you have a better shot. But I just think that when Minnesota proves it, I'll believe it. But for right now, I can't believe it without seeing it.
All right. I'm fine with it. Kansas City, no one's picking Arizona in this next game, right?
No, I have Travis Kelce. I need
should.
it. In both my leagues, I believe I have Travis Kelce, so I'm going to need Mahomes to throw to him every play.
All right.
And I don't think the Cardinals can stop it.
I don't think they will.
I don't think they know how.
I don't think they know how.
Yeah.
All right.
That was an easy game.
Easy. All right. Vegas and the Chargers.
Oh, the timeout revenge game.
The timeout revenge game. All right. This is my my other home team that I hate. Chargers at home, favored by 3.5, and the whole crowd is chanting for the Raiders. Raiders by 7. That's the only reason I'm picking them. I like the Chargers this year.
I like the Chargers. I don't like McDaniels in his first game. I don't really like McDaniels anyway, but I really don't like him in his first game, especially when if there's one team that these Chargers players hate, it's the Raiders. Because the Raiders had the opportunity to sit there and let them in the playoffs and be nice, and they decided not to. So if you're the Chargers, these guys not only ended your season, they made the active decision when they could have let you in to end your season just for kicks. Go out and get some revenge. I think they're going to be motivated and hopefully not in a situation where they have to call any timeouts.
I think Vegas is going to be a better team this year, but it's hard to recover when you're any team when you just look back and say, okay, where's our first round pick from the last 4 years? He's not on the team. I don't care who it is. He's not on the team. Even most of their second rounders are not on the team. And there's just no way to build a team and be productive and continue to get better. I think they're going to be better this year than last year because of their additions. But just the Chargers are more complete, especially here in week 1. I think the Chargers are a team to watch out for in terms of injuries ruining their season because they've got a lot of older guys who are kind of on a last ride type deal or who are injury prone. I think that's something to watch out for, but for right now, the Chargers are a team that looks like they're going to be pretty decent to start off the year.
Give me your AFC West standings.
It's hard. It really is. I think Kansas City hangs on to the division, but it's by the skin of their teeth, by a Hail Mary, whatever analogy you want to put to it. Then I think it's the Chargers. I do think they are that good. And I think it's a coin flip between Denver and the Raiders. It is a murder's row of a division. It wouldn't shock me if every single team in this division made the playoffs. So it could go either way, but I think Denver is a better team than the Raiders, and I'm putting them at the bottom of the division. But again, I don't mean that insultingly. I think this entire division could get in.
Kyle? 1 through 4?
I would change. I would go KC again at the top. But I think I'm actually going to end up going Denver to Vegas and then the Chargers. I think the Chargers are a really good team, but
Chargers last?
But I think they're a good team.
Wow.
But I really do believe they're going to have issues.
Wow.
And the coaching is a big,
it's a
big
question
time
mark.
thing.
It's a question mark.
And Herbert's done really well, but he hasn't. And he had moments his rookie year where you thought of him as he's got that clutch moment, that clutch gene, but he wasn't nearly the same in year 2. He was a really good quarterback, and his yards were great, and he did a lot of good things. But at the end of the game, they didn't pull out as many of those ones as you thought they could. And maybe that's a coaching thing. Maybe that's a screwing it to Anthony Lynn type thing that was working in year 1, but it didn't really happen in year 2 with Staley. So it's a question mark, and I think I think they're a really good team, but I think they might have already kind of passed their opportunity moment.
My thing is, if not now, when? With the Chargers.
Yeah,
if they don't win the division,
I think they missed their moment.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't win the division this year, what do they even do?
It's too
far.
far.
What do they even do? They've already gone all in. I think the Chargers do succeed. I think it's Chargers, then Chiefs, then Raiders, then Denver. I hate Denver this year. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson a lot this year.
I hate Denver, but I think they're going to win games.
I don't think they're going to win games. I think they'll win games. I think they're gonna go like 8-9 or something.
Okay.
It's his first year coach, first year play caller. They'll figure it out. But anyway,
Tell that to Tom Brady and Bruce Arians.
well, I don't think Russell Wilson
I don't.
is
but
even close.
I agree, but they're in the similar situation of going to a new home with literally everything on the team you could possibly want, and a coach that's going to sit in the corner and do whatever you want.
If you took Russell Wilson and put him on the Raiders, or Derek Carr and put him on the Broncos, which team is better?
We talked about this, but
It's a
Broncos.
question, right? It's at least it's a thought.
I prefer Derek Carr at this moment.
You prefer Derek Carr as a quarterback?
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah,
I
At
think
this
Derek Carr
moment,
is
yeah.
better than Russell Wilson.
I think the skill is close enough and the person is enough of a difference that I would have Derek Carr any moment.
I also don't like fake people, which I think Russell Wilson is.
extreme. I was just reading reports
He's
that
the king
apparently
of-
he was very, very angry at Seattle for scouting Allen and Mahomes.
There's some terrible stuff with
Yeah.
Russell Wilson behind the scenes. It's just
He is-
disgraceful.
He's a handful, but for the sake of
Yeah.
I think we all have something we need to get to, so
Yeah.
we need to end relatively soon.
All right.
That being said, we got 2 games left. One of them, and I'm going to start this next one. You got Tampa Bay. I believe they're going to Dallas.
They are.
Here's what I'm going to say.
-2.5.
Dallas is a disaster. Dallas is a bad team. Dallas exists so that we can laugh at them. That being said, these 2 teams played last year in Tampa Bay when Brady had Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski, and this game was very, very close. And that was when Brady also had an offensive line. Now he's got no offensive line. Now he's in Dallas. Now he's without his top 2 most trusted playmakers. I think that's a lot for him to overcome against a team that played them very close last year, in all fairness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not being reported enough just how much Brady's going to have to deal with a very compromised offensive line. I think too much attention is being given to, oh no, Brady's having problems at home with his wife and wanting to retire. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I think a bigger problem is having no one to protect him. He's going to get sacked 5 or 6 times in this game at least. Maybe Dallas gets penalized 10 times and keeps Brady in the game, but I think it's going to be an ugly start for Brady and Rodgers. I think they could both start 2-2.
I know it's a bunch of hogwash, but I still think it's worth noting that Brady's having troubles. Brady's having personal problems in his life. He just took 10 days off of training. He just disappeared in the middle of training camp. Guy's not around. There's no explanation. People thought he was on The Masked Singer, whatever. and he's just gone. I mean, that matters, right? It matters. 45-year-old quarterback, and, this stuff matters. And the offensive line, it goes along with everything else you just said. Dallas played him close last year. I picked Dallas, too. I think they get out Tampa Bay, if they pick themselves up, I think they get out to a slow start at the very least. I don't see a way they don't win this division, but I think that they have trouble.
For me, this is the same story almost as the Green Bay Minnesota game. Until you prove to me that Tom Brady's not going to beat you, I'm not going to really believe it. And every new year is a new opportunity. I think Dallas is still poorly coached. I think Dallas still has a lot of airhead-type playmakers on their defense who think they're a lot better than they are. We've seen that with Diggs over this preseason for multiple reasons. And I just think that the whole Zeke thing is a whole other part of this, and the Zeke Tony Pollard thing and the Jerry Jones, it's all part of it. And it's obviously Cowboys drama, and it's always going to be like that. But I just think Tom Brady, with half a foot and one eye, can probably beat the Dallas Cowboys if he's playing the right way, which I think he might be able to lock in and say, forget the Giselle is out of here. Forget the Ryan Jensen is tore his ACL. Let's just play football, which is what I want to do and why I potentially ruined my marriage and whatever all this stuff is. He just did it for football, so let's play football. And
if Brett Favre had his best game after his dad died, Tom Brady could have his best game after he was separated from his wife. It's possible.
Could happen.
We have one more game.
Let's get
and
through
let's let Tony go off on this one.
Seattle's just gonna win. All right, Seattle. Denver
Geno. It's Geno
at
time.
Seattle. It's Geno time. Denver's favored by 6.5. Everybody's backing Russell Wilson. Can't wait to see Russell in an orange uniform. Oh, Russell's going to go into Seattle and they think he's going to get some standing ovation. No, Russell Wilson is going to get booed. I hope he gets booed. Anyway, I'm going to be booing. I can't believe he just leaves this team. He just abandons them. And guess what? I asked this question a couple months ago on this program. I said, who do you hate worse, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers? And you guys both said Aaron Rodgers. And I live to be proven correct that I hated Russell Wilson more then, and I hate Russell Wilson more now, because at least Aaron Rodgers told the truth. At least Rodgers said, hey, I want out. And then he came out again and said, hey, I wanted out, but now we worked it out and we figured it out and blah, blah, blah. Russell Wilson sat up there. Look at me, Stephen A. Russell Wilson sat up there on week 18, whatever that was, before the last game of the season. He said, I want to retire as Seahawk. I want to win 3 Super Bowl champions here. I don't want to be traded. I never asked to be traded, blah, blah, blah. They trade him 1 month after that. It's absolutely disgusting. Russell Wilson is a liar and a fake, and Seattle is pissed. Those players, they might be playing nice in the media. They might be all like, oh, Russell's a great guy. Oh, yeah. No, they're mad that he abandoned them. He abandoned that team. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are pissed.
Geno Smith and Rashad Penny are going to go
Geno
off.
Smith is...
Geno Smith might go down. It might be a Drew Lock revenge game.
Let me just say, Seattle, Pete Carroll is heartbroken. He's not mad. Pete doesn't get mad. He's just disappointed. Pete's gonna be riled up. All right. Pete's gonna be chewing gum in the face of Russell Wilson. All right. Seattle by 10.
Yeah, I'm going Denver by 10.
All right.
I'm going Denver by 9.
All right. Denver by 9 for Drew Lock. Number 9 for Drew.
Is he still wearing 9?
I don't know.
I
He
think
did
might
in
be wearing
Denver.
6.
Oh, is he? Oh.
I don't know.
That's the amount of points that the other team gets every time he throws a pass. But this has been The Wise Guys. We will see next week just how horrible all of our predictions were, and we will have other controversies, dilemmas, and arguments to be had. Stay tuned and have a good night.